Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Hey, everybody.
I was just looking at the twirl on that video and Jasmine was there, and I was just thinking, how many times have we twirled like that in 25 years?
I think we've twirled a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of goes with the topic today, which is let's talk about sex. Twirling, right? Yeah.
It's a new word.
Welcome, everybody, to Couples Synergy. This is our Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live podcast. And if you guys don't know, we have a podcast, and we've been broadcasting every Monday on all of the podcast channels, anywhere you can listen to a podcast. So today,
we should talk about sex.
Okay, well, but today we are talking about sex. And you know what? Let us know if you guys have any questions or anything. We are here to answer any question you guys have.
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
It is. And, just fire away. We're going to try our best to answer any questions that you have, and or just drop a line. Let us know that you're listening, you're here, and say hi. All right. So one of the things we want to do and we want to say is thank you so much for all of you out there who have been following the podcast. I think as of today, we have over 230,000 unique downloads in over 140 countries. And it is amazing because it's just been organic growth, and, all of the reviews that people have been, sending in and letting us know how we're doing. It really is just, it hits our heart. So thank you so much for all that. And thank you for all of you who are joining us today. We are going to be talking about sex. It is a topic that I think not a lot of counselors really touch. Yeah. But speaking of touch, I think is really important. And, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it is the amount of couples that we are running into that have sexless marriages. They are just functioning together like, roommates. They're really good friends. They run a household pretty well together. But when it comes to having the closest physical, intimate connection you can have with another human being, it's, for a lot of people, it's been years since they've actually had that connection.
Our sexual energy and our spiritual energy, they come from the same source. So if you think about it like that, if there's a love and a light between a couple versus not having that, when you're hooking up with people, and, when you're younger, you have this much stronger physiological drive. Your hormones they're all just tuned into that. And very often young in life, we get overexposed. We get overexposed to so much nudity and sexuality and I just learned this a couple of years ago, it actually makes you numb.
Yeah.
It shuts you down.
It's actually much worse today than it ever has been.
Right.
Ever. And the amount of sexuality and nudity that is being presented in the media, in movies, in social media, it is so much. It's just, you think about just being bombarded, with that imagery, with that messaging on a constant basis, even if you're not looking for it. All right. Even if you're not looking for it, you're still being exposed to it. And then you think about how it is impacting the next generation.
Well, what it does is it hijacks you, and it takes all that energy and puts it 100% in the physical. You get the dopamine and you get this high from it. But what it shuts down is your heart. It shuts down your ability to actually be present with another human being and be open and vulnerable in that way that allows that light.
From a physiological perspective, you
Yep.
mentioned dopamine, and yes, the reward center of the brain, the same area that is affected by alcohol or cocaine or any of these enhancing drugs, is also the area of the brain that's affected by sexual desire, right? And so when we are exposed to sexual imagery, when exposed to all of this bombardment, then it affects that part of the brain and releases dopamine. And so now we're making a pairing. We're making a pairing between some type of, let's use porn as an example, porn with this sexual reward in that part of the brain, and there is no risk. There's no consequences for that. So in a committed partnership, when we are trying to connect at that deepest level, right, the physical connection, but it's also mental, spiritual, emotional, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of vulnerability to be able to connect at that level. And if we are receiving that same kind of reward in a very quick, like, flash of, whatever stimuli that we'll be presented with, well, then we are going to tend to move towards that and move away from the work that's necessary in order to have that committed partnership intimacy.
Well, let's not use the word work, right? It's like investment.
Sometimes it's work.
But that makes it sound like it has to be bad or has to be
No.
not pleasurable.
No.
And
Right.
it takes time to cultivate any relationship. And if you think about, if you go over to a friend's house, you're going to say hello, you're going to be present. You're not just going to go sit in the corner on your phone. You are going to talk and look at that person, enjoy that conversation. So it activates so much other parts of the brain besides just the dopamine system, which when it's visual, it's almost 100% just the dopamine, but it shuts down the bonding chemistry of the oxytocin
And vasopressin,
Right.
which is necessary in order to have pair bonding.
Mhm.
Yes, and you don't get that.
Right.
You don't get that with any of the superficial sexual
And
imagery.
if you're doing that enough, you actually will not want to have intimacy with a real person.
Yeah.
Because that's risk.
Which we have run into couples where
Mhm.
one or both are really, they're repelled by their partner. They don't want to have any sexual connection with their partner. They would rather go to porn or go to anything else, right?
Which says nothing about their partner.
No, right. This is not
Absolutely
about
nothing
their partner.
about their partner.
It's not about their partner not performing well or whatever that is. It's really all very internal, and this is a trend that we are seeing a lot more nowadays than in the first 10 or 5 to 10 years that we started working with couples.
Yeah.
It has accelerated so much so that it's almost like its own epidemic going on.
And the sad part is if our sexuality and our spirituality come from the same source, then it deadens you as a human being. It
Mhm.
deadens you of being alive in this world. And sadly, the younger generations are actually choosing to not have relationships.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's so
And they don't know
interesting.
how.
Yeah. It's sad,
Mm-hmm.
but it is interesting to kind of see that how this has trended throughout the different generations and how younger generations. I mean, I was just talking with a client today who is in his early 30s, been married for, maybe 5 years now, and they have a sexless marriage
Mm-hmm.
completely. Maybe they've had sex once in the last year. And it's just, I mean, you think,
And when
they don't have kids.
Yeah, and when you ask them why, they'll say, I don't know, we enjoy it when we do it. We just don't. We just don't.
Well, in this case, in this
Mhm.
particular case, it's about like the pairing of expectation
Yeah.
and the pairing of judgment, right? And that unfortunately also becomes part of the whole intimacy dance within a couple too, when it gets merged with self-esteem and judgment and criticism, then your whole sexual intimacy and connection just becomes tainted. And why would you want to be close to another person that you feel judged by or you feel criticized by? And it's so complex. Our sexuality is just, it is so complex.
Yeah, and the that hijacking bit, there's a lot of much more risque type of behaviors that younger people do that, that wasn't happening in older generations.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah, and we're learning about
blown away.
sexuality.
I may
from,
sound like a boomer, but it's true. It's really crazy that what people are doing online for attention and everything.
not just online. I mean, you can't walk down a street in a city without people overexposed, and and what that's doing is it's shutting you down. That the humanness, it shuts down. And so then when there's a real person, there's all this stuff already in you that you have to sift through and get through to have a heart loving type of conversation,
Yeah.
which would lead to greater intimacy. So it really is almost this profound, profane type of thing. And the profane is so easy. It's so easy and less painful in the moment. But unfortunately, I always think about it like fireworks. And after fireworks, the air kind of smells bad and it leaves you dark and cold.
Oh my God. What are you making
Right?
that parallel with sex?
Well, it's just this big flash and this big, and then it's dark and cold.
Okay. Versus the contrast in our wood stove. So us being here in Colorado now, we just got hit with a snowstorm today. And, the temperatures have been kind of going down. And we have this wood stove that heats up the majority of the house. And we didn't have that in Chicago. In Chicago, you have a fireplace. It's for ambiance. You're not really using it for heat in the house. But here, you have to use it to heat the house. So we started it this morning,
Yep.
right? The wood stove. And we've been burning logs and we have to constantly look at it and make sure that, the fire doesn't go out.
This goes right with our podcast that we aired yesterday about touch points.
About touch points, yeah.
Right? You have to constantly keep that heat going.
Feeding
Otherwise,
consistency is key. And, a lot of couples that go without connection for an entire day
or longer
before they actually talk, and maybe it's over dinner or maybe it's after the kids are, they go to bed. And so now this is their first time that they're actually connecting. You think you're going to actually have sex then at that point? At that point, it's either service sex or you're too tired even for that. And you just go to bed. So,
right.
This is, and then it becomes chronic because the day goes into the next day, into the next day, into the next day. And then it becomes the normality for the relationship.
And awkward and uncomfortable. Do you remember when you started dating, how much time you spent looking in each other's eyes? How much time you spent physically touching your partner, holding hands, hugging, dancing together, sitting on the couch together, cuddling, all of that kind of stuff.
And having sex.
Well, that all leads to having lots of sex. So if you think about your fire analogy, if that's like the heart of your home, your whole home becomes warm. But when that fire goes out, it's pretty chilly in some places.
And it takes a long time to get it back up again, right? We're just get it back up again. That's such an innuendo.
There's a pun.
Oh my gosh.
And it doesn't necessarily change. Lots of things change over time. But the need of investing in your relationship to keep your heart open and to keep that intimacy and that connection going, that you can't take that for granted. If you take it for granted, it'll go away. It'll fizzle out.
Yeah.
Just like a fire.
And then people are looking to like artificial ways of trying to spark that fire again, right? So there's commercials all over Chicago area about, boosting testosterone and taking this supplement and that supplement. And it's a cart before the horse. How about starting with looking at the quality of your relationship, the quality of your connection, and working on that first before you start throwing diesel fuel into the engine.
One of the things that we've done is, when you go on vacation, you have a change of scenery, which tends to be very relaxing, peaceful, no distraction. It's just nice to kind of unwind and unplug. And so we've created our house like that.
Yeah.
And our we moved, but our old house is like that as well. And to find those places in the home where you can sit and talk and enjoy a glass of wine, turn off some screens, maybe touch each other's feet, those kind of things they just lend to softening of everything so that you can get to that place. And same way, like when you get a massage, it takes a while for those stress hormones to calm down and settle down and relax.
Well, one thing we've been doing here is, turning the TV off. We have a record player, and we've been going around to antique stores and collecting vinyl and putting on a record. It's like interactive, because when that side is over, you got to get up, you got to flip the record, you got to throw in another piece of wood into the stove. You are...
And you have to be making a decision about what you want to listen to. So you're setting a mood. Whereas if you're just playing like Spotify, it's just going and selecting for you and creating its own ambiance, whether it's where you're at or not.
Which I'm not going to knock Spotify, because our podcast is on Spotify.
And it's if other people are over, you don't have to get up and change the record.
It's really about finding the balance. And we have lost balance completely. We are so inundated with everything else that's in life, and we are putting more effort and energy into other people versus the people who are actually closest to us, right? And our partner is the closest you can ever be to another human being, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And how often do we actually stoke that fire, right? How often do we actually encourage that connection? And we take it for granted. It's very easy for that to happen. It happens very quickly. It can happen over a 24-hour period or less. And if we are not paying attention to that and finding balance, then it's so easy for that gap to start to grow. And it grows exponentially, not just little by little, exponentially. Every single day becomes greater and greater.
It's like debt.
Yeah.
With interest.
Yeah, with interest, right. And it's, yeah.
I keep having a thought, and then you keep talking. And I keep forgetting. No, that's okay.
Hey, out there, if you have any questions, just
if you are kind of numbed out, if you're desensitized because you're used to the bombardment of sex, violence, moving parts all the time, no relaxation. If you are disconnected from your nervous system and you want to see if you're disconnected or not, turn everything off and sit in silence. And if you feel like you want to jump through the roof, your nervous system might be in a pretty bad place.
I had this amazing experience a month ago, maybe. It's been a month now, right?
Yeah.
I was, I went hunting for the first time, hunting for elk. I did not get anything, but it was a great experience because there was a point in time where it had just snowed up on the mountaintop, and I was sitting on a ridge, and there weren't any people for miles out or miles around, and it was so still. You could even hear your breath, and it was the most peace that I had felt in a very long time, and how often do we have that? How often do we have that for ourselves personally? And then how often do we have that with our partner?
Yeah.
Where we're able to just kind of deflate everything going around us and start to hear our own heartbeats, right? And really connect with each other in that moment. We don't have it. We just don't.
And when you're in that place, you chase it. You feel like you are on the treadmill, like you feel you're part of the rat race and that you're just going and going and going. And that feeling gives you another sensation that we chase.
Yeah.
And people feel like, well, if I relax and calm down, my workload's going to pile up, or this isn't going to get done. There's going to be dishes, there's going to be this. And you know what? I promise you that'll all still be there when you get done relaxing. But we are designed to relax. We are
Yeah.
designed to take a break, reflect on our lives. And that's the place you're going to have good sex from that place of de-stress. And what it does is makes you more sensitive. And when you're more sensitive, everything that your partner does, whether they look at you or talk to you or touch you, you feel it at a deeper level because you are sensitive. And the world wants us to be desensitized, which means we're tolerating all this bombardment of information and overflow of everything. And it actually is pretty jarring to our nervous system. So I would encourage you to do that. I know people hate the meditation word, but it is.
Well,
It's a
I
big
was going
deal.
to say, you know, as human beings, we find a status quo
Mhm.
in anything, and we will find status quo in chaos.
Yep.
And so if you try to disrupt chaos, if that's happening in your life, you are going to go through a calibration process. It's not going to be comfortable at all. So you think about eating fast food, you know, for the majority of your life, and then you decide, I'm going to go on a diet, I'm going to start eating healthy. Well, your body's going to rebel against that, even though it's healthier for you.
Yeah.
Right. So,
It's like working out and you feel in a lot of pain the next day.
right.
And it takes a little bit of time before you start to feel good and
Mhm.
want it and want to do that.
So we always find that, you know, couples who are in that space of status quo has become no contact, right? No
Mhm.
affection, no intimacy. Now we're asking them to show intimacy, show affection towards each other. You're just starting with
Yeah.
non-sexual affection, right? It is a very uncomfortable process for them. They have a hard time doing that because it feels awkward, right? And that is going to happen, you know, when you try to shift things and shift out of that status quo in your relationship.
But if you hang in there, give it 4 days. It takes about 4 days before you get the full gist of the reward of doing those behaviors and decreasing your anxiety. I mean, I promise you, if you are not letting yourself sit in silence ever, you have anxiety. Your anxiety goes through the roof. There's a lot of people who have low contact with their relationships, their partners, their friends, and higher anxiety, higher depression. It's totally related.
Yeah, you know, I think when we're talking about distraction, we're talking about the superficiality of sex within a relationship. You know, couples tend to just really trend more towards service sex and having something that's really just, you know, fast and quick, and try to have that really elevated contact with each other,
Mhm.
which doesn't happen. Right. And so what they think is, well, let's just try to infuse our sexuality with something else. Right. We're going to introduce porn into it, or we're going to introduce, you know, toys. We're going to introduce, you know, something else that's just really going to try to spark that connection. And it doesn't have to be about any of that.
And when you do that, you actually pull out the emotional connection and you put it into more of the physical realm. And unfortunately, because it desensitizes us, you need more and more of that and weirder of that and something new to stimulate all that because you get desensitized. Whereas when you go to an emotional depth, it never gets old, it never gets boring, and it feels like a greater way of feeling like at peace in this world, like you have your partner, and it lends to a healthier life and a more enjoyable life, I would say.
It absolutely does.
Mhm.
You know, we are planning our 2023 weekend intensives. Our next one is in April 20th to the 23rd, and our weekend intensives are designed to not only enhance that emotional connection between a couple, but also the sexual and and physical connection between a couple.
Yeah,
And
we pay a lot of attention to the environment.
we pay a lot of attention to the environment.
Yep.
And that is a very important thing for us, because if you don't take yourself out of the environment, the tendency is for you to fall back into the same pattern,
Old habits.
and old habits die hard, right? And so that the 3.5 days that we really focus on the weekend intensive is designed to take you out of the ordinary, to break up that chaos, and then also to kind of reprogram the connection between the two of you. So if any of you are interested in the weekend intensive, we have just opened up registration for that.
It's always interesting to watch a couple, whether we're working with them individually, but especially on the weekends, where they come in and they almost look like they're in shock. Like, okay, I just traveled to get here, and I hope I took care of everything at home, and I'm here. And then they're giggling on the couch,
Mm-hmm.
and they're touching each other, and they're happy. And you just see this transformation of all that stress just go away. And then they get to actually feel their own feelings and connect with their partner at that level. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And so if you're interested in a weekend intensive, you can go to couplesynergy.com. You can check it out. You also check out Bliss.
Oh, yes.
Bliss Intimate Products, which we actually have on Couple Synergy.
Mm-hmm.
We highly endorse them. We did a podcast with Dr. Capano, who has the first doctorate in cannabinoid science in the United States. And she partnered with Ananda Health and created this product called Bliss, which is...
So ladies, this is for you. It is a product that helps you kind of relax and get all that junk out of your head so that you can be more present and allow that touch and sensation to feel good and let it in.
It's good for you guys too. So
Yeah. Oh,
you should check that out. It's online on couplesynergy.com. You can check that out. We're just going to end with our weekend intensive promo, just kind of give you a little bit more information about.
it's in a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful lodge.
Mhm.
It is we found this nestled in the mountains, the Gunnison Range Mountains in Colorado. It is incredible, guys.
It is.
Really. So, and this is all high end, and we hope to see some of you there. So we're just going to end with that, and
See you next
we'll
week.
see you next
Same
week.
time.
Same time, same bat channel. Hi, I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean, and we're so excited to offer you this Couples Weekend Intensive.
Too often we hear about couples who are in love with each other, but just feel like something is missing. Their relationship has become something they long for, but their lives are driven by work, children, and everyday stress, leaving no time to nurture their connection.
Just like a flower needs sunlight, water, and care, a relationship is its own living, breathing entity. Without proper care, it will wither. So we've created this fun weekend where couples can have a space to breathe life back into the most intimate parts of their relationship and create new levels of connection.
On this weekend, you will learn what it takes to create and grow an amazing relationship. We've taken out the guesswork, so all you have to do is just show up and let us show you the way.